Please be seated. Good afternoon, members of the Rowan University Board of Trustees, the Cooper Medical School of Rowan University Board, President Hushmund, Provost Newell, Dr. Blank, members of the Cabinet of the President, deans of the Rowan colleges, department chairs of Cooper, faculty, and colleagues. Welcome, friends and family of the class of 2021. I'm Annette Raboli, and I have the honor of being the interim dean of CMSRU. What a happy occasion this is as we gather here in Rowan University to welcome our newest junior colleagues into the profession of medicine. I'm going to ask for a little bit more light in the room, please. I'm actually going to ask members of the class of 2021 to please stand. So can we have the lights up in the house, please? Okay. Please stand and face your family and friends. These are the people who have loved you and supported you. They've been with you along the magnificent journey that you're on, and I know that they will continue to be there in the next 4 years of your education. This event is so important to our university community that several dignitaries from the university and from our major clinical affiliate, Cooper University Healthcare, in addition to our CMSRU leadership team, are here today to celebrate with us. And I'd like to recognize them. I'm going to ask them to please stand and be acknowledged as I call their names. Rowan University Board of Trustees members, Dr. Barbara Chamberlain and Mr. Martin McKernan. Cooper Medical School of Rowan University Medical School Board members, Dr. Tabitha Dobbins, Dr. George Lynn, Mr. Martin McKernan, and Dr. Edward Viner. Our university president, Dr. Ali Hushmund. University Provost and Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs, Dr. James Newell. Dr. Kenneth Blank, Senior Vice President for Health Sciences. There are also several members of President Hushmand's cabinet here today. I'd like them to stand and be recognized as well. Rowan University Deans, Dr. Richard Dahmers, Dr. Karen McGee-Sauer, and Dr. Sanford Tweedy. Cooper Medical School Deans, Dr. Rose Kim, Dr. William Coker, Dr. Harry Mazurek, Dr. Anthony Mazzarelli, who is also the Chief Physician Executive at Cooper, Dr. Jocelyn Mitchell-Williams, Dr. Aaron Pukanis, and Dr. Larry Weisberg. CMSRU chairs, Dr. Robin Perry, Dr. Roland Shorting, Dr. Todd Siegel, and Dr. Alan Salina. Class of 2021, today you will do two things that will mark your formal entry into the profession of medicine. First, you will be cloaked with the white coat, the symbol of our profession. It's a symbol that is relatively recent compared to the long and rich history of medicine. The wearing of the white coat started in the late 19th century. Prior to that, physicians actually wore black. The reason that the white coat was put forward was at the time there had been an emphasis within the medical healing arts on mysticism and quackery. And a group of students and physicians wanted to start to emphasize more of a scientific basis. So they decided to assume the mantle of the laboratory scientist, and hence the white coat. But the white coat is merely a symbol. It is how the person feels and wears their white coat that is important. White coat ceremonies are even more recent. The first one occurred in 1993 and was organized by Arnold Gold at Columbia University. Now they occur across the United States at almost every medical school, and they occur worldwide. The gold pin on your coat is a gift from the Arnold Gold Foundation. Wear it proudly. Dr. Jordan Cohen, one of the chairs of the Arnold Gold Foundation, has called humanism the passion that animates authentic professionalism. We are proud to have a gold humanism chapter at CMSRU. Secondly, today you will recite the ancient oath of Hippocrates. This oath is over 2,500 years old, and it unites all physicians worldwide and throughout the ages in the art of healing. In taking the oath, you will commit to the highest standards of our profession. Today, you become a medical professional. You may ask, what is a medical professional? A medical professional is someone who accepts the responsibilities, obligations, and the sacrifices that go with the privilege, and indeed, it is a privilege to study and practice medicine. But above all, a medical professionalism is someone who always places the interests of their patient above their own. Class of 2021, you were chosen by our admissions committee, which is a committee of faculty, because they felt that you had the right stuff. The competition was stiff. There were over 5,000 applications for the 97 spots that you occupy. We're a school that is very driven by our mission to serve our community and to develop each and every one of you as culturally competent physicians who will be leaders in your communities and strong patient advocates. You're the future of medicine, and the future of our profession depends on you. Class of 2021, medicine awaits you with open arms. Each of you is a very special person with a very special role to play. Each of you will need to discover, to develop, and then use your incredible talents and skills in the service of others. You will need to continue to develop the traits that are essential to the development of an excellent physician: altruism, humility, commitment, kindness, respect, and compassion. This process has already begun, for in choosing medicine, you have proclaimed your desire to serve others. Our job over the next 4 years is to help you become the person who fills your white coat with the attitudes and skills that are worthy of our noble profession. Best wishes to all of you. It is truly an honor for me to introduce Dr. Ali Houshmand, president of Rowan University. Under his leadership, Rowan has been on a truly amazing meteoric rise, regionally and now nationally. His personal story as an immigrant to the United States is an inspiration for us all. President Houshmand.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to especially welcome the families, the parents here for the first time. This is the first occasion where we have held the white coat ceremony on this campus. I want to especially welcome the class of 2021, the most selective, the most capable, and I might as well add the best looking class for this year. I'm so proud of all of you, and I'm so honored that you're all here. I'm particularly pleased that all the faculty of Cooper Medical School of Rowan University and the administration are here for the first time, because this is the main campus. This is your home. For the next 4 years, obviously, while these guys try to make a doctor out of you, you're going to work very, very hard, and we want you to know that this main campus is a place for you that on occasion you want to probably cut off from Camden and come in here and just walk around and talk to some of these young undergraduates and inspire them to become future doctors. And on occasion, you go to some of our Division III football games. They're not bad. We don't do a scholarship, but they're really, really good. There's so much passion. I am so honored that you guys are here, because ever since the creation of Cooper Medical School of Rowan University in 2012, 12, really, that's when we started. This university has been under ascension. And I genuinely believe as a result of creation of medical school and then integration of second medical school, caused all this success at Rowan University. Because whereas in the past we were a regional institution basically known in southern New Jersey, and kids from the 7 or 8 counties of Jersey would come here. Suddenly, as a result of this ascension, we became a national institution. And so fast, we went from a public, regional, master's classified institution into a national research university in a space of 5 years, which is unprecedented in the history of higher education. That, to me, speaks volume about the quality and capabilities of the faculty, because at the end of the day, when it comes to the ranking and recognition of academic units, it's all academic. It's not buildings or it's not clothing that people wear. It's who you have as an intellectual property or intellectual asset that really move you up and make you the most prestigious or one of the most prestigious institutions. So I am so proud that we have this relationship and we have this medical school now because it had made Rowan better. We had 6, 7 years ago in this university had, 7 years ago this university had about 9,000, just under 10,000 students. Today we have 18,500. We are 7th fastest university in the nation amongst 4,000 universities. While that has happened, we have become one of the most selective universities in the region. In fact, today, if you look at the profile of the incoming class for undergraduate, after UPenn, when it comes to engineering and sciences, we are the most selective. And if you look at the across the river, compared with many of those institutions, and compare our SAT and profile of the students, we are far more selective than many of them. And all of that, again, is because of the addition of medical schools, where we can now call this a comprehensive university, a research university, where great minds come in here to learn and to create knowledge. I wish you the most wonderful years over the 4 years, and I hope you become great doctors, and hopefully as we age further, you can help us. Thank you, welcome, and congratulations to all of you.
Thank you, President Hushmand. It's an honor for me to introduce Dr. Edward Viner. His bio is in your booklet, so I'm not going to read it. You could read it faster yourselves. It captures his stellar professional accomplishments, but doesn't totally do justice to the measure of the man and the physician. Dr. Viner is a doctor's doctor. He epitomizes the highest ideals of our profession. I truly believe that his personal experiences, including on the other side of the stethoscope as a patient, have molded the physician he is today. If that isn't enough, Dr. Viner has worked tirelessly for CMSRU since before our inception, and he continues to do so. Our students and their future patients are the beneficiaries of his fundraising efforts to launch the Center for Humanism, Professionalism, Ethics, and Law. I have been personally blessed to have Dr. Viner as my mentor, colleague, and friend. Dr. Viner.
Good afternoon, President Hushman, Provost Newell, Dr. Blank, Dr. Roboli, my colleagues, other distinguished guests, and most importantly, our new students and their loved ones. This is indeed a great day for all of us. I know that we all appreciate the symbolism and solemnity inherent in the students donning their white coats and taking their commitment to the precepts of the Hippocratic Oath. Seems like it was just yesterday, but it's really been 61 years since I started my medical training. A lot of water has passed under the bridge since then, and I thought I would talk about some of my observations about the practice of medicine, some of the lessons I have learned. And I first want to talk, though, about the creation of the school and some of the thinking that went into that. Those of us that were involved in that process decided early on that we wanted our school to be different. We wanted a special focus on humanism and professionalism. We wanted to create a kinder, gentler educational milieu and to attract mission-driven students. While not yet perfect, I think we're doing pretty well on those goals. But we also envisioned a heavy emphasis on serving our community. And our motto, coined by Dr. Roboli, quickly became, Camden is our classroom, Camden is our home. We know that we have succeeded in this goal because our students last year donated 15,650 non-patient care hours to community service, with great benefit to both the donors and the recipients. I need to tell you at the outset that you won't love every minute of medical school, and you won't always understand or accept your faculty's rationale for when, what, how, and why we think you should learn something. But in the same way that the Philadelphia 76ers basketball fans were urged to trust the process during their painful rebuilding efforts, we urge you to trust the process. And I think you can do this with confidence, based on the fact that our 2 graduated classes have done very well on their national exams, the infamous Step 1 and Step 2, and they have also done very well in the internship matches, and so will you. A word to the wise about these exams, however. You will do well if you just keep up and do well on the monthly block exams. And don't let the Step 1 looming out there lead to your thinking that something is not worth learning if you can't envision how you could be tested on it in the exam. Instead, keep your focus on the real reason you came to medical school, which was to learn how to become the very best doctor that you can be. This means not just cramming facts for examinations, but also learning how to talk to patients, connect with patients, and communicate with patients. Your natural empathy will help with this, but these skills are also in part learned behavior, and you need to work on this. Furthermore, it's true that while gaining admission to several of the subspecialties requires very high performances in the Step 1, don't despair. Do your best, and rest assured that there are at least 99 other available career choices out there that you would find very satisfying. And more on that later. In practice, we are constantly reminded by our daily patient interactions that medicine is really a very difficult art rather than a science. Therefore, you must learn to tolerate ambiguity and to make therapeutic decisions even when you don't have all the facts. If we are lucky, we will make mistakes that are not bad enough to hurt our patients, but significant enough to keep us from being cocky. Now, some thoughts about practicing humanistically. Just what does that mean? I think medical humanism really isn't any different than humanism in any other sphere in life. It means bringing ourselves as aware, feeling human beings to our patients and developing relationships based on open communication, mutual respect, and emotional connection. Certainly, humanism in medicine requires that we not let our natural instincts be snuffed out, and that we will not be afraid to let the soft inner healing part of us show. While everyone may not agree, I think it is all right for us to be happy with our patients when they are happy and sad with them when they are sad. I will readily admit that I have occasionally cried with a patient and family. I also think it's all right to show frustration with them if they have been non-compliant or provocative. If you make a mistake, I believe it is not only appropriate, but imperative that you acknowledge that and apologize. Your patients will almost always accept this and respect you more for your honesty. I'll tell a brief story about this particular point because I think it's extremely important. A high-profile Philadelphia businessman came to me as a new patient and to have a physical examination. All seemed well, but he was on his way to Florida, and I didn't hear from him after he got there. And then one afternoon, a month later, my front desk receptionist called back to my office and said that Mr. and Mrs. K were there, and that Mrs. K was very angry. So I went out front and brought them back, took them to my office, and as she put it, Mars got a cold. And so we went to our local street corner doctor, little doctor on the corner. And he examined his chest and he examined his abdomen, and he told us that he had an abdominal aortic aneurysm. So she wanted to know how it was that I, who had come so highly recommended to them, had not found this. My husband could have died. I replied that obviously there was no other rational explanation other than I must have missed it. I was sorry that I did, and so glad that the doctor down in Florida found it in time. She stood up on her full 4-foot 10-inch frame and looked at me and said, "That, Dr. Viner, is the only answer you could have given us that would have allowed us to continue as your patient. Now, what do we do for this aneurysm?" We got that fixed, and I took care of them for more than a decade until they both died of other causes. Ours became a very close and personal relationship, very gratifying relationship. And along the way, they even made a handsome contribution to the Pennsylvania Hospital in my honor, all because I told them the truth. Please don't forget that lesson. I must also acknowledge a couple of caveats about practicing humanistically. There are lots of challenges to doing this. We work hard. We get tired. We get disgruntled like everybody else. The demands of the electronic medical record, the need for endless documentation, and the mountains of forms to fill out are only a part of the long list of obstacles. However, we must always try to do it right. Also, while the best way to learn to practice this way, the right way, is to watch how good senior physicians do it, we live in an imperfect world, and you will occasionally see practice that you shouldn't emulate. In such situations, just recognize it for what it is, and remember that some of our most valuable lessons can be learned by negative example. Now, as Dr. Ruboli mentioned, besides what I've learned from my patients in the last 61 years, I've also had the privilege of a most unusual learning experience as a patient. I was 36 when I went for a routine physical examination at the behest of my then pregnant wife. A grapefruit-sized tumor, apparently malignant, was found in my liver. I was operated on, and fortunately the lesion was benign. But I had a very serious postoperative series of complications. I ended up on a respirator for nearly 6 weeks, in the hospital for 4 months. And the point is that telling you this is that I learned a great deal about humanistic practice during that experience. While we doctors know intellectually what it's like to be a patient, we really have no idea of the devastating experience that we put our critically ill people through, physically and emotionally, at a time they are very vulnerable. I think that every patient would benefit immeasurably if every care provider could experience the preoperative terror of thinking he has an end-stage malignancy, the nostalgia inherent in believing you won't see your children grow up, and the pre-terminal mourning one does over the thought that he is leaving behind everyone he knows and loves. I also learned on the respirator that an amazing degree of verbal and nonverbal communication goes on between the patient and the caregiver. The flick of an eyebrow, a frown, a smile, a caring comment, etc. I decided that I could tell in a minute or two whether the new nurse or house officer on my case really cared about me. Their level of emotional involvement was immediately telegraphed in a way that fascinated me. And I thought I divined that caregivers all wore one of two signs on their chests. One that said, "Come unto me, I want to take care of you." And the other that said, "I don't really want to be here getting my hands dirty." I decided that it was a combination of natural inner warmth and sensitivity, coupled with a very significant amount of learned professionalism, that together were the key attributes of the best caregivers. These were the ones who had learned to connect emotionally and to communicate. One of the most frustrating problems for me was that all types of caregivers shared this, the failure to listen to the patient and take what he's saying seriously. It's very hard for us doctors to always remember that. And even I, in spite of my dramatic learning experience, still find myself occasionally forgetting to do this. Another lesson I learned on the respirator is how imperative it is that we define just what are the appropriate goals for the individual patient in his given circumstance. While I was, of course, very appreciative of the heroic care that saved my life, I came away from this ordeal with very firm ideas as to what would have been appropriate if my liver tumor had been malignant and incurable. For a long time, the patient in the next bed to me was a man I learned had a very malignant brain tumor, and then he got a brain abscess in the operative site. They had just opened and biopsied and closed him, really. He was obviously going to be dead within 6 or 8 weeks. Yet he was being given the full aggressive care that I was being given. And I kept thinking, why don't his doctors realize that this isn't appropriate, unfortunately? So fixed were my convictions about this by the time I got out of the hospital. I subsequently became very involved in the hospice movement that was just starting in the United States. Because it seemed to me that when a patient isn't salvageable, traditional aggressive treatment should be stopped. But intensive care should not be stopped. We just need a different kind of intensive care in that circumstance, consisting of comfort measures for the patient and sensitive supportive care for the family, which was all very much in concert with hospice philosophy. Now, while we want you to practice humanistic medicine, it's also important to practice excellent medicine. To me, first of all, this means always being very thorough and very disciplined. I can assure you that you will make many more brilliant diagnoses from being thorough, methodical, and careful than by being brilliant. The most important time of all to be thorough is when you're taking the patient history and doing the examination. I'll tell three quick anecdotes about patients to impress this home. First, there was a foreign seaman from a boat off a boat in the Philadelphia harbor who had a peculiar combination of bloodshot eyes, fever, muscle aching, and liver failure. Some careful historical probing turned up the fact that he'd fallen off the boat on his first day in our harbor about 8 to 10 days earlier. Now, among other things in the water of our lovely Delaware River is rat urine, which contains an infectious agent called leptospirosis, which classically causes this combination of findings. And then there was the florist from Pittman, New Jersey, who had pneumonia and a big, soft, swollen lymph gland under his arm. This combination was a mystery as well until careful history-taking revealed that his hobby was hunting and that he had recently killed and skinned a rabbit. Classic picture of tularemia. A little tetracycline fixed him right up. And last was the young man from Vineland who had a number of numb and scaly quarter-sized lesions on his legs. Could this possibly be leprosy? But where would he have gotten that condition? Probing the history a little further revealed he had lived a year in Hawaii, raising bees and producing honey. And guess what? Found out that leprosy is indigenous to Hawaii. Excellence in medicine also means always examining the patient yourself. I've had two experiences, both with physicians' wives, where the patients told me that I didn't need to examine their breasts because they had just seen their gynecologist. I insisted that if my imprimatur was going on their physical exam, I was darn well going to get to examine the breast myself. And each case, lo and behold, was a fairly obvious cancer that had been missed. So possibly 2 lives saved simply by being thorough. And excellence in medicine also means connecting with patients and understanding their needs and agendas. On teaching rounds, I would occasionally ask the residents to tell me about their most difficult patient. So they very eagerly told me about this man who was sullen, angry, and totally uncooperative. We walked into his room to find him lying there in a fetal position with the sheets drawn up over his head. They introduced me as the chief of medicine, and he couldn't have cared less. So I asked him, if I had a magic wand that we could only use to do one thing, what would you want it to be? He didn't ask me to try to cure the cancer that was literally growing out of his rectum, but rather replied, please get me out of this pain. I asked the residents what he was getting for pain. They said morphine, that was good, but then I found out it was only a token dose. I asked for a dose 4 times larger and personally gave him the injection. Came back at the end of the day to talk with him just as he was waking up. Turns out he was a very warm and sensitive guy. He asked me if I would be his personal physician, and I took care of him for the next 15 years until he died of something else. And oh, by the way, we were able to cure the advanced cancer with radiation and chemo. But his real agenda that first day and the way we connected was by getting him comfortable. Another caveat about trying to practice humanistically is that when you have to decide how comfortable you are getting how involved with patients. One such situation occurred when my former senior partner left Philadelphia in 1967, leaving me with huge shoes to fill, both in my own and our patients' minds. One of his older patients was particularly doubtful I could fill the bill, and she had no hesitancy to tell me so in our first meeting. Sometime later, after I'd seen her a few times, she came in bearing a package with a pair of lovely sterling silver candlesticks, which had been her mother's. She told me she wanted me to have them, but there were a couple of conditions. First, I had to promise that I would take care of her always. And second, that if she got too sick, I would make house calls until she died. It was a moment of great poignancy, and yet the situation was loaded. I briefly debated in my mind some of the obvious issues, such as the need to establish control of the patient-doctor relationship, and how would I ever be able to set limits and what I would be willing to do for her? Would I be opening Pandora's box? I sort of was, but decided the right and human thing to do was to accept her proposal. And it all worked out fine. I did take care of her for several more years. I ultimately did make a few house calls. And as an aside, I want to tell you that house calls are a wonderful way to really get to know your patients and their circumstances. But furthermore, and most importantly, this experience helped me realize that, for me at least, this was the kind of relationship that was the real reward of being a physician. I urge you not to be afraid of getting involved. Take the candlesticks. Now, we've talked so far about what you are going to do for your patients, but it is also vitally important to ask yourselves, what are you going to get back in this deal? My fervent hope for all of you is that you derive the same level of gratification from your careers that I have from mine. To some degree, yours and the patient's motives are not at cross purposes, for just taking good humanistic care of your patient can be very satisfying in itself. At least that I have found that to be the case. In short, I think you get out of it in proportion to what you put in it. like so many other things in life. Several other comments. Choose your specialty carefully and wait as long as you can to finalize this decision. Then, if you find you have made a mistake, don't be afraid to evolve to something else. If you don't get the specialty you thought you wanted, don't despair. Again, I assure you that you don't know enough about the pros and cons of any single specific career choice to be so heavily invested at this stage of your training. And sometimes this changes, I see the students' perspectives change because of this focus on this exam, the step one, and then if they don't do well, they won't get the residency they want, and then all is lost. Well, none of that has to be true. Always have a plan B at every point along the line. After all, you made out all right after that boy or girl walked out of your life in the 8th grade because you developed a good plan B. You need to plan it so you can always have options, which I think is the greatest insurance against burnout. Odd to talk about burnout when you've hardly started here, but it is an issue, and again, the important thing is to have the plan B. But it will take some work on your part. Always be alert to new opportunities and challenges and new ways to keep your lives interesting and fun. Always be prepared to take steps to make your lives happen. My kids always got very annoyed with my wife and me, constantly telling them carpe diem, seize the day. But that is a very appropriate motto. I've had a very unusual career in terms of the wide variety of things that I have done, all because I didn't want to get bored. My wife used to ask me, why was I doing research? Why was I writing papers in addition to my day job, which was a very busy private practice? And I would always tell her, quote, to preserve my options. And later this investment made it possible for me to come to Cooper as chief of medicine, which in part I sought out because I was getting burned out by my practice. Now it is time to mention that the real secret to my success is that along the way I was most fortunate to have married the wonderful, tolerant, and supportive woman who is my wife, Judith. Somehow we found time to have and bring up 6 kids, who I'm very proud to say are all very good and special human beings. And they have presented us with 9 wonderful grandchildren. So I've actually had a life in spite of my busy career. Now, some of the opportunities obviously involved good luck. But I trust you understand that you all have, to some degree, the ability to make good luck happen. I tell you all this not to tout my accomplishments, but because I'm trying to drive home my lesson to you. You can all have fascinating careers and derive great gratification from them, if you choose. There are endless remaining challenges and mountains to climb. Indeed, endless opportunity is one of the great things about a career in medicine. But you must carpe diem. In closing, while you are all very different in so many ways, the characteristic common to all of you is you want to do good for your fellow man. In choosing Cooper, you have chosen a medical school that places great emphasis on producing humanistic physicians. We want to take the natural empathy you've all come here with and nurture it, teaching you how to translate good motivations into good care for sick people. We want you to come out of here being a doctor who cares about your patients and not just their diseases. I wish you luck and welcome you to the Cooper Rowan family. Again, I wish you all gratifying careers. Don't forget to keep your nice white coats clean. Always do your best to practice medicine excellently. Trust the process. Commit to lifelong learning and to always trying new things so that you will always have options. Carpe diem, and don't ever hesitate to take the candlesticks. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Viner. An amazing journey through your career in medicine and some of your interactions with patients and your own personal experience as a patient. I encourage all of the students to really get to know Dr. Viner. He's in our building, and you could have conversations with him, have lunch with him, et cetera, and enjoy other perspectives. He's very active with us. I'd now like to invite Dr. Erin Pukanis, Assistant Dean for Student Affairs, to come forward. Dr. Pukanis is also Vice Chair of the Department of Anesthesiology, and will now have the ceremonial cloaking.
Good afternoon. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. It's time to don the white coats. Each student will be cloaked in their white coat by directors from the student's respective advisory college. The advisory colleges serve as a center of support and career mentorship for the students as they progress through their 4 years of medical school. Each college is named for a historical figure in medicine and is directed by CMSRU faculty physicians who play an integral role in the student's developmental journey from medical student to physician. The 4 colleges and directors are Elizabeth Blackwell College, directed by Drs. Ramya Latano, Anut Feingold, Don Solomon, and Chris Deitch. Henry Cushing College, directed by Drs. Lisa Reed, Sam Bader, Joanne Mazzarelli, and Ashley Decker. Benjamin Rush College, directed by Drs. Tony Spevitz, Emily Scattergood, Greg Kubicek, and Leo Iliadis. And William Osler College, directed by Drs. Richard Fisher, Emily Damath, Stephanie Wilsey, and Dory Susan Barrington. As we call the students to the stage, we ask that you please hold your applause until after all of the students have received their white coats. Would the students of Blackwell College please rise? Brenda Arthur, Arushi Chopra. Matthew Delancey. Chris Ferry. Daniel Hamid. Emily Lubis. Rosalie Machado. Rachel Mancy. Stephen Meixner. Sneha Modi. Gina Moss. Nikita Parapati. Pavan Patel. Amina Rana. Matthew Roddy. David Rodriguez. Yuritsa Santana. Alexander Shofet. Jenna Snyder. Elsa Stoff. Sholi Tung. Serena Wasserman. Christopher Yard. Siwon Yu. Will Cushing College please rise? Jacqueline Andrews. Avril Betances. Michael Bizard. Catherine Bush. Seema Doshi. Harish Jaram. Mihir Johnny. Eugene Marone. Kelly McHugh. Evan Mitchell. Long Win. Pooja Patel. Yulia Polenka. Christopher Ray. Alexa Rothenberg. Frank Santisi. Ashwarya Shah. Isabella Silvestri. Pooja Singh. Teresa Skelly. Adama Spearman. Ryan Vance. Carlos Vieira. Maria Vinta. Samantha Wu. Would Osler College please stand? Blair Barnes. Marie Beauvais. Kuntal Bomik, Kia Bordeaux. Trishna Dave, James DiChiara, Menaka Dingra, Holly Dickinson, Maha El Gowli, Lauren Finch, Abraham Hakim, Emily Hansinger, Mark Heslin, Hansa Joshi, Alec Kellish, Cecilia Lee, Samuel MacLeon, Lindsay Milliken, Lauren Nisi, Kelsey Opalek, Deep Patel, Sam Russo, Michael Singer, John Sobieski, Will Rush College please stand? Nicole Ackerman, Zoe Began, James Cahill. Alyssa Chang. Jacob Deere. Akosia Frimpong. Rithi Ganthi. James Giordano. Albert Ha. Lauren Jonas. John Julian. Jeffrey Kelly. Jesse Krikorian. Alvin Mercado. Michael Monahan. Olivia Nicholas. Abisola Oyeniran. Niharika Padala. Yash Patel. Katie Rodriguez. Claudia Rugama. Victoria Soul. Michael Springer. And last but not least, Brianna Yates. Please join me in congratulating the class of 2021. Students, when you reach into your coat pockets, you will find notes. These notes were written by your family, friends, faculty, fellow students, and loved ones in an expression of support and encouragement on this very special day in your medical education. At this time, I would like to introduce Dr. William Coker, Associate Dean for Admissions, who will be leading us in the recitation of the Hippocratic Oath.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to extend my warmest welcome to all in attendance tonight, and particularly to the class of 2021 and all their friends and family who are joining us today. It's always difficult in a ceremony like this to follow someone like Dr. Viner. I thought I was going to, I just want to share a couple of things with you today before we do the oath. I feel a particular special significance to being able to recite the Hippocratic Oath with you today, because this year marks personally for me my 40th anniversary of being a first-year medical student. I can tell you it's also Dr. Raboli's 40th anniversary too. She told me not to tell you that. But. So in just a moment, I'd like to ask you to all stand, if you will. We'll be reciting the Hippocratic Oath. I'd like you to recite it along with me. The oath that we're going to use today is a modified version of the modern Hippocratic Oath. I'd also like to invite any physicians who are on the faculty, who are in the audience, to please stand and renew your Hippocratic Oath, your vow as well. So please recite along with me. I do solemnly swear by that which I hold most sacred and just and generous to its members, that I will lead my life and practice my art in uprightness and honor, that into whatsoever house I shall enter, it shall be for the good of the sick to the utmost of my power, holding myself aloof from wrong, from corruption, from the tempting of others to vice, that I will exercise my art solely for the cure of my patients, and will give no drug, perform no operation for a criminal purpose, even if solicited, far less suggested, that whatsoever I shall see or hear of the lives of my patients, which is not fitting to be spoken, I will keep inviolably secret. These things I do promise, and in proportion as I am faithful to this oath, may happiness and good repute be ever mine, the opposite if I shall be forced. Thank you, and congratulations.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our white coat ceremony. Once again, congratulations to the class of 2021. We expect great things from you. I would like to ask the class to stay behind with Dr. Viner. We're going to take some photos. There is a reception outside the building on the tent. All family, friends, faculty, guests are invited to enjoy the refreshments. So thank you all and good afternoon.